voice will narrate the story for you.
Lukas, nice to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you much, Sarah, for having us, for having me, and I will look forward to talking to you during this hour now.
Yeah, cool. We talk about your upcoming game, Return to Nangrim. And it's like this fantasy game, but maybe you can describe a scene for us so we can picture it, how it looks like and how it maybe sounds like.
So, Return to Nangrim is it's a dwarven fantasy adventure, and we like to say it's like Hellblade meets Skyrim in Middle Earth, and that kind of describes that kind of that's with that we're trying to describe what the game is like. So we have this very strong immersive vibe like Skyrim has it, but we're not as open world as Skyrim, so we say Hellblade meets Skyrim. Since as soon as we go into the mountain in the game as the player, we'll be in corridors, we'll be exploring halls, we'll go into the mines, and then this whole open world feeling is lost. So that's why it's a Hellblade meets Skyrim, and then Middle Earth is like the strong emphasis on our dwarven character, on our Tolkien-esque inspiration. So with the other tribes that we have in our world, the elves, the Uturi, the humans, that's all like very Middle Earthy. So that's kind of what we like to say. So that's a little bit about the game. And maybe as describing a scene, I would not to spoil too much. Maybe describe a scene from the very beginning. The player had an accident, and now all his friends, which were on the expedition with him, are dead or didn't make it to the place where he's at now. And now you're feeling cold. You're abandoned. You're feeling lonely. There's a lot of ice, and it's somewhat dark atmosphere. You don't have any tools, and you're freezing. So what you want to do now is you really want to get into some warm place. You really want to find some shelter. And then what you start doing is you start walking around. You start looking for ways to cross that broken bridge, which you can see ahead of you. And then you go looking for some ways to repair it. You find some materials. You manage to repair it. You escape the cold by breaking through a barrier. First, you have to combine an axe to break through the barrier, and then you make it into the citadel. And in the citadel, that's where kind of you finally feel some warmth, even though the roof of the citadel is still broken, and there's still some coldness.
Like a cold wind or something?
Yeah, there's still a little cold wind in the citadel, exactly, since the roof is broken. So you found shelter, and now you can go and really explore those different doors that you have available to you, and go into the mines, go into the forge, or go into the scriptorium.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So that's kind of the beginning of the teaser. In the game, I don't really want to talk about the game a lot in that sense, since we're very story based on the game. So whenever I talk about story on the game, it could be some kind of spoiler. It could be some kind of information which we haven't decided to share publicly yet. So I'd rather be careful there.
Yeah, sure, of course. Talking about the story, I read that before you even started to develop the game, you developed this whole fantasy universe where the game now takes place, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So during our co-founders studied computer science, and already during their studies, they started developing the Arafin universe. So they came up with their whole own universe. They took notes started describing different clans. They drew up a map and noted different locations, how the weather is at certain spots, what makes something special, who lives on which island, And so they already planned this whole universe, so they already had this whole universe thought out. They were coming up with their own stories, which were taking place in that universe. And once they had finished their studies, it was like, okay, now we have the tools to create a game. We have this epic fantasy adventure, fantasy country that we've, or fantasy universe that we've developed. What are we going to do with it? And it was like, well, obviously we should create a startup. And that's when they founded Sycoforge and decided to really create one story which takes place in the Arafin universe, which is Return to Nangrim. So that's only one story which takes place in Arafin, and there's a lot more stories that we can tell about Arafin. And this is just the first version and the first way to experience Arafin. So in the video game, there will be other ways by either watching movies, looking, buying comics. So there are a lot of different ways that you can hopefully in the long term experience the Arafin universe, and we're giving the community or the fans one first impression with the video game.
Well, great. So you're actually planning on doing comics and movies maybe about that universe too?
Or we're trying to develop this transmedia strategy. So yeah, that's right. And we have great artists. So we have Sophie who's been working with us for a while now, and she's not only great at creating art for the game, but she's also really great at creating art as in for comics. So actually we've started creating comics already. We've pitched the comic to Pro Helvetia, so the Swiss Arts Council, and we hope that at some point the art will be at a level, or will meet the criteria, so that we can get some support from the art council side. And then we are developing art books. So our art books, we're developing what we call storybooks, and they're already available online. So those are books which you can look at right now on the website, and you can click through the book yourself. So you decide when it turns the page, and an epic dwarven voice will narrate the story for you. And then you can read and listen at the same time. You can look at the pictures, and so the one story which is published is actually kind of the prequel of Return to Nangrim. So you're very welcome to go and look at that or listen to that. It's a kind of interactive thing, so it's neither looking nor listening. It's both. You can do that already now on the homepage. And other things that we have is the map. So you can already explore the map of Arafin today, which is also available on our homepage. And finally, there's our Discord, where we invite our community to join the development. So we have our community, which we give them Steam keys, or we give out Steam keys every now and then, and that community has access to a build which is not publicly available. So they can go and look at a certain feature, then they'll give us feedback. They'll have a specific survey to that feature. And so if players are interested not only in playing the final game, but actually want to kind of be part of the development as well, then they can already do that nowadays.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of how players can prepare for the game, which will then be released next year, right?
Yeah, they can prepare for it. Definitely, there's some things like the crafting, where you can, if you already spent some hours crafting different metals, you'll be a lot faster and won't have to think twice in the final game. But we're not spoiling any story aspects of the game in those feature tests. So the good thing is that there'll be something new for every player, even if you've been part of the development. So that's something which is really great. But on the other hand, yeah, of course, you already now have the chance to get a feel for how the final game might be like. And the special thing for the Discord community is that they'll continue to get like a, more features coming out that they'll get to test.
Okay. Well, it also sounds like that the story and the universe is kind of really big. So by reading this storybooks available online on your website, you can already start reading, and then when the game comes out, you probably, I don't know, better understand what's going on, maybe.
Definitely. I mean, if
Okay.
you already understand what happened to the dwarves or why certain things might have happened, there'll definitely be things that will pick up again in the game. So that's also a great part of the universe. So whenever we have a story, we can place it in the universe and it will make sense no matter whether you're reading the comic to that story or whether you're playing the game and you read about that story in the game. So it doesn't really. So that's a great thing about having a universe, and definitely if you're already prepared and know about the universe, there might be some things that you can avoid or things where which you already know how to solve, some dates which might have appeared in some newsletters, which is also a way to stay in contact with us. So there are some clues and hints out there to how the game might be, what might be useful in the game. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds really exciting. Um, can you also describe maybe the gameplay to us a little bit? So I heard it's a lot of exploration, crafting, that sort of thing.
Sure. So the main focus of the game is, well, you're asking at a really difficult time because now we're kind of, there's a little change, but I'll go with how it was how it's planned at first, and then I'll tell you in what direction it's changing. So the gameplay that we want to have is a fantasy adventure. So a lot of exploration for sure, but there'll be important features like the crafting, where you have the whole furnace management, so heating up the furnace, smelting ores, creating weapons and torches to proceed in the mountains to fight stronger enemies. So combat is the one important feature of the game. And then you'll have this loop around one last dwarf which is left, which has survived the attack on Nangrim, and which is the only dwarf who still lives in the mountains. And of course, he's very reserved, so he's very scared of anything new that comes along, and he will help you proceed throughout the mountain. So you will have his guidance, or you'll go back to him, and kind of the core loop will be around him to proceed in the game.
And you play him as well, so you have this companion, or is he not playable?
That's the companion is something different. So Bilrun, the Tinkerer, is kind of the quest master in the game. So you go to him, and he's a real NPC, and so you won't be able to play him. The companion, on the other hand, is a fox or a wolf, which you'll be able to save, and you have to decide. So most likely you won't be able to save both, and that's a companion which, at the moment, the level of detail that we're planning to have him at for the final game is have him as a companion only. So you can't send him anywhere, or you can't make um, him do a specific task. But
Hmm.
he'll be your companion throughout the game. He will do things automatically. So, for example, when you're attacking monster, he'll attack the monster as well. You'll
Okay.
be able to interact with him by when his health is low, same as if your health is low, you have to give him some dog biscuits, and you can restore the health. Same as with yours, you don't eat dog
Yeah.
biscuits, but you eat other things that you can prepare,
The
and
dog biscuits
then
remind me of Blair Witch, the game.
yeah, maybe
You also have
take some
dog
inspiration
biscuits
from
there all
there.
the time.
I, yeah, I mean I don't know exactly what they're going to be like, but I think that's like the neutral thing somewhere between fox and the wolf. Give them dog biscuits. I think both animals would eat them.
Probably, yeah. I think so. Um, All right, cool. So you have then this companion who's also with us and fights with you, and yeah, lots of exploration and also probably like main quests and side quests and that sort of thing.
Exactly, main quests with going deeper into the mines and kind of exploring the whole mountain, because now Return to Nangrim is obviously abandoned, and over and other creatures have now inhabited the mountain. So you have to kind of free the mountain and make it accessible to the dwarves again, to get the wieder in Besitz bringen, to
Uh, uh, re not recover,
kind of
reclaim it.
recover. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Reclaim, to reclaim the dwarven capital of Nangrim for the dwarves again. So exactly, that's the goal of the game. And now, so from what I've told you now, that's kind of the original path we're taking. And in the next year of development, we'll be focusing a little bit more on the survival element. So as I've mentioned, the healing up with food, you'll have to leave the mountain and find sources to replenish your health. So you'll not only be inside the mountain, so there's going to be an outside world of the mountain as well. I think it's at the moment it's 8 by 8 kilometers, and you can that's also an area which you'll be exploring, and where you'll be leaving the mountain and coming back in, kind of as a part of the game to proceed inside the mountain.
For what platform will the game release? Because it's also going to be in VR, right?
So VR is our original inspiration. So when we went to GDC in 2017 and 2019, we actually brought a VR prototype. Nowadays, it's VR second. So we've integrated a few things for VR, such as the 3D rudder, so the platform that you can stand on, and by moving left, right, forwards, and backwards, you can move the character. But since VR has made quite some technological advantages in the last years, and also with games like Half-Life Alyx, you have a very high standard of what VR has to be now, as in you have to have the full control. You have to be able to pick up rocks, and you have to be able to I don't know, when there's a leaf, you have to be able to move things. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider when you're developing in VR, when it's full motion control. So developing just for the goggles and moving with the mouse pad is something which can be easily done, especially since we're creating it from a first player perspective, and also with Unity as engine which we're developing in. So developing in Unity also really helps this process of staying nimble and having the possibility of going to VR. But on the other hand, getting it all integrated for the hand and motion control is like something we would want to do as soon as the PS version is released.
Okay, so is that a really big challenge to develop for VR because of those things?
Well, I mean, if you say VR and are just like you just want to have the goggles, it's not such a big challenge, because that's something we can do right now. In theory, we can go into the game with the VR goggles, and with the just the normal controllers. So you can use Xbox PS controllers, and you can move around the game with using the controllers. And then, but getting it integrated for the motion controllers, you have to do a lot of changes to the rig, for example. So your character has to move according to your hand movements. And on the pad, you'll just have those two arms sticking out in the front, and then you move around. And whenever you do an action, he'll do an action, like fight, whatever. And when as soon as you move a little bit with the motion controls, the arm has to move a little bit. And then all those things that you can grab, you have to also consider that you have to make them grabbable in the world, which they aren't in the build that we have right now. So there are some elements to creating a VR version which are more and less challenging, but since we've um, kind of the original idea was to create in VR, there will be a VR version, whether it's the full-fledged game, whether it's DLC. I'm not really, or we're not really sure yet at the moment, but definitely there will be a VR something to the game.
Okay.
Maybe to add on to the platforms. So because you asked about the platforms,
Oh, yeah, sure.
so
Yeah.
and I just answered on VR only. So the platform, our main platform at the moment is Steam. So that's where we collect, or we ask our community to wish list and follow. So that's where we have our main hub for staying up to date. But we could also we then next, obviously we're in contact with PlayStation, and we're in contact with Xbox to get our game onto those two consoles, and then finally getting to onto other platforms such as Humble Bundle, Good Old Games. Those are definitely something we would see in the long run, but it's not our primary target at the moment. So Steam, our main platform for for computer, for the PC, and the two consoles, the big ones.
Okay, I see. So you plan your release of Return to Nangrim in 2022, so next year. Um, how would you sum up how's development going? Like, what's things are still left to do?
We've developed a lot during the last 3 to 4 years, and now it's kind of really refining what we've developed to suit the game that we want to create. So make the combat that we have fit the enemies that we want to have. And so there's a lot of making improving things on the one hand. Then there are a few things like which we're currently integrating, the whole NPC AI system. So for all the enemies, we're using Unity tools to have an artificial intelligence control the NPCs whenever you fight with them, or if you don't want to interact with them. Then the whole companion is still up to be developed. So that hasn't been developed in the current state. That is still completely coming. From a map perspective, the whole outside map is pretty developed. There's still some areas which need to be refined and redefined. And then from the character, we've switched from the two arm rig to the full body rig. So that is something which is also going to be, which is kind of now being adapted step by step.
So would you say then you're on time? Like the development is going like you planned it, or do you think, well, there's still a bunch to do?
I, from as far as I know, it'd be an exception if we were on time. I don't. I think we are somewhere okay.
Mhm.
The good thing is we have a 2020 goal, but I mean, there's no
2022,
time
right?
pressure at 2022 goal. Yes, so there's no time pressure, and we have the goal of getting a publisher on board. So to really grow the community and let everybody know that there's this awesome game about dwarves coming out, made in Switzerland, then for that we would really like to have a publisher on board, and that publisher would hopefully also support our development, and that is what we're considering when we say 2022. So if we wouldn't get a publisher on board, then the 2022 will most likely be a 2023. And then so then that it kind of also depends on the funding of the game. So we're currently the 2022 goal is a best case scenario, and that's what we're trying to or what we're working towards at the moment.
Return to Nangrim is your first game. Were there challenges, or are there still challenges because it's the first game?
Sure, there are there are challenges every day because it's the first game. I mean, uh, there are so many things where we're like, okay, I don't know, you don't know, we've never done this before, so let's Google it, or let's do to the best of our knowledge, or let's follow
Okay.
some kind of um, process which has been tested before. So we have, for example, in our production, we're using some kind of mix between Scrum and it's not a really 100% agile workflow, but we're using Confluence to track our progress. We have some things that we know that the industry how the industry works, but of course it's always a new test. So for example, trying to a press release. Um, Nobody has ever done a press release in China, so we haven't tried that yet. So what we did is we got an agency. We found somebody who could write up a press release based on the information we gave them, and then we gave them some assets, videos, and then we tried a press release in China. It was completely unsuccessful. We were featured on I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 pages. So web pages. That was really great, but there was no traffic. So those are things which when you're an indie, I don't know, maybe those 50 or 100 Swiss francs were invested wrongly, but at least we know, okay, we didn't spend 1,000 or 10,000 to do some marketing where we're not capable of doing it, or where we know that we won't have traction.
But I think there are also things you have to try out some things, and of course some will work and some not. But I think it's great just to do it, and if you have got an idea and if you find out a way how to achieve it, even like with the press release in China, I think it's great that you did it, and now you know. Well, maybe we've got to change our approach or do it differently next time, or just leave it at first.
Exactly. So it's every day that we're learning, and it's every day that we're facing new challenges. And I think that kind of makes it special. It gives us the kind of a disadvantage when you're obviously have to do really high performance and really strict deadlines. On the other side, we have a lot of freedom. We can try a press release in China. There's nobody telling us that we can't or have to, or whether we have to do Facebook or Reddit ads. So there's this freedom also which comes along with being an indie and doing your first game.
Yeah, I think that's great, of course. How were you founded actually? Like on your website, it says that you have been, like, Sycoforge has been founded by two engineers.
Exactly. So that is
Okay.
that is our computer science. That's the computer science studies that Michaela and Ismael did. That's officially an engineer job. So they're computer science engineers, and they created the Aerofin universe, and they founded it. They founded Sycoforge in 2017.
How how did they get together? Like, is it because of the university then that they found each other and then decided to develop Sycoforge and get together to this indie studio?
So they were already a couple before they started their studies, and then they decided to do those studies together. And then they created during their studies they created the Aerofin universe together with already partly of the part time of the development. So I said development was already since 2009. So um, they only started their studies in 2013 or 14, I believe. And so those years of creating the universe are them creating it together with Ismail at the in between. So he wasn't as much integrated into it, but for example, therefore very much integrated in creating that prototype for the 2017 GDC. So there's like varying degrees of being part of the company and the universe, but the original founders are Ismail and Michaela, which founded in 2017, and also nowadays there are four co-founders. So we have Ismail, Michaela, the original co-founders, and Milena and Silas, which have joined the co-founding team. So now it's a real family business with three siblings and Ismail's girlfriend, or even a fiancée.
Okay.
So yeah.
Congratulations. And how did your career in the gaming industry start?
Mine. Oh, so I come from a very business background. So I studied business administration and business innovation in the masters, and I wasn't planning on joining or working in the gaming industry. What I'm really attracted to is startups and the whole entrepreneurship vibe. So that's what really got me when Milena, who is my girlfriend, asked me, so she's one of the four co-founders, asked me whether I wanted to join the team, or I was asked by the team whether I wanted to, since they needed somebody to take over the more regular marketing posts and also the whole press and press outreach and publisher not interviews, but publisher meetings. So since more than a year, I've been on the team doing regular posts across social media and also talking to publishers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because you say that you talk to publishers, and you also told us a little bit about that you're still looking for a publisher, so that release can be happening next year. Um, is that then the only thing at the moment where you hope you're getting support from, or are you also getting some funding or any support from your local government, maybe?
Well, we have the advantage that we could keep developing the way we are right now, without a publisher funding us. That would just mean we would reduce the scope of the game slightly, and we would have to extend the release date. So we would have to say, okay, we're going to release in 2023, and we have to really get everybody in line to work till that release date. So that's kind of that little difference between being funded and not being funded. On the other hand, yes, there are governmental funds in Switzerland. However, they aren't very large. So we have, as I mentioned before, the Proevetia, the Swiss Art Council, which pretty recently, so I think it's about 2 or 3 years old, that they started supporting games within the section of the interactive media, or the other way around, that the interactive media was created for the games section. So either way, it's a very young, very young support system that we have from the Swiss Art Council. If you compare it to, for example, book writers and novelists, kind of they've had support for a really long time. But of course, the industry is also very young in Switzerland. And when you approach the Swiss Arts Council for being supported as a video game studio, you can apply to this program. And if you are selected as one of 10, so there are only 10 games which are promoted every year, or which are supported every year. If you're selected as one of these 10, then you have some financial support, not very much, but what really counts is kind of they get you connected. So they hook you up with tickets to all the big conferences. So we've been at we were at Gamescom. We went to the big festival in spring. We have a Nordics coming up. Um, Even though for Nordic we had to do a separate, but I think we had to do a separate application. But we're also part of the games showcase for Nordic. So kind of that's where they support you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, but only 10 games or studios being accepted every year. You think that's enough?
I mean, as one of the 10 which was selected after I think we've applied 2 years in a row, and I think we weren't selected the first time, and also there are different so there are different juries which kind of decide whether you join or you don't join. And I think if you it depends on what you want to do as a Swiss Arts Council. If you want to support the 10 best ones, obviously 10 is enough. If you really want to improve the whole um gaming landscape, which I've been talking to Provitia, it's not their mission. So they don't really have the mission of creating or building a Swiss gaming landscape. They just have the mission of supporting the artists. So that's kind of the problem with getting financial support from the Swiss government for that in that area. But there are some things going on. Um, there are some things going on within the industry to kind of get the awareness of the government that there's a need for financial support for games or for video game studios. And there was a comparison, and I think it must have been something like in Germany you have 8 million inhabitants, and the German government puts uh, no 80 million, sorry, 80 million inhabitants, and you have about and the German government puts about 200 million euro into the German gaming industry. If Switzerland, which is 10 times smaller, so 8 million, would get the same amount of funding, we would get 10 times less than the 200 million, which in Germany they're getting, would be 20 million in Switzerland. But actually, what's happening is I don't know, I don't really know the exact numbers. I just know that there's a really an imbalance. So for the sake of the example I just made, it would be like, okay, there's only 4.5 million in Switzerland. So to get onto the same level as Germany in how much the industry is being supported, we would have to um, multiply it by four the amount that the industry is getting supported at the current state.
Would you still say that Switzerland at the moment is great for developing games? Maybe because there's things going on and hopefully improving?
I mean, I know, for example, that definitely one big advantage is the education system. So we have, in general, we have a pretty high level of education, and the amount of education in the direction of the games industry is actually growing as well. So we have the School of Audio Engineering, which teaches games programming in Zurich. We have the FFHS, the Fernfachhochschule, which which started a games programming course or program this semester, I believe. And we, or Sycoforge, we as a studio, we know because we're being asked to teach some of those courses. So our founders are developing the game, but also they give courses at those schools since the knowledge base is yet to still has to grow in Switzerland. And but then you also have yeah. So, and then you also have another example for growing in for growth is like in the University of Lucerne, you had a lot of arts, and then so now there's kind of this possibility to specialize direction animation or the direction game art. So there is this awareness happening and coming to play, coming to the market, that there should be a switch towards a more gaming perspective. On the other hand, big disadvantage is we were well less connected. So as the industry is smaller as a whole, there are less um, people which want to, I don't know, investors which will support you. There's a lower knowledge base. So whenever we have a mentor, we're being mentored by Jason De La Rocca at the moment, a big gaming personality from Canada, and he was one of the jury members who picked us for those 10 games. And so what we have to do in Switzerland is kind of, we have to go outside of Switzerland and get the knowledge from outside of Switzerland and bring it to Switzerland. That's the only way we can grow at the moment. So we don't have the knowledge in Switzerland. That's really a problem.
Yeah, I also read an article which is a little bit older, like from 2017, where Michaela and Ismail, like the co-founders of Sycoforge, they said also that most Swiss devs get to know each other not in Switzerland, but outside of Switzerland, like in other countries, when there are like events like Gamescom or something. They also said that many devs in Switzerland, they normally stay underground, allegedly due to the limited funding of the country. Do you agree?
I think that's maybe a little bit outdated, since nowadays there are like events where also in Switzerland where visibility of the Pro Helvetia is fostered among the Swiss studios. So we have we know a lot of the other games which recently released, which were also part of the program. We know of, I mean, if you're talking about solo devs and indie devs, which they don't have a lot of marketing, they can't do a lot of PR, they don't have a lot of visibility, then definitely. Then you would probably have to look into the gaming museum in Fribourg, where they collect every little game which was ever created by anybody, and you would probably find tons of Swiss games which have been published, but semi-successful. So what we should really do as an industry is kind of bring the level of awareness up to that we know that there are other Swiss games. I mean, we know of Giant Software, which has successfully published the Farming Simulator with their own software, or in their own engine, and then the other studios in Switzerland are all indie studios. There are no big well-known studios in Switzerland.
Crazy. Yeah. Would you still say that the gaming industry in Switzerland is quite big?
No, the industry is I mean, compared to other industries in Switzerland, compared to the industries in other parts of Europe, the Swiss gaming industry is small.
Well, hopefully that will get better someday.
Yeah, sure. I think there's so much potential in the game industry. You have so much scale. A team of 10 people can reach 10 million people, and there we have interesting tax systems in Switzerland, which would be interesting for rich companies to come here, maybe also to found here. On the other hand, everybody tells you if you want to found a game company, you have to go to the US. So that's where the big investors are. That's where you get all the support. That's where you have all the knowledge. And of course, if everybody thinks along those lines, and everybody's going to go to the US, and all the knowledge is going to stay there. But maybe there is some potential. And I think if we really can get the awareness of the government as well, then we can do something here in Switzerland. I think what we benefit a lot of in Switzerland is kind of being German speaking. We also have all the German publishers, which are kind of, that we have the same mentality. We there's no language barrier. We can talk to the Austrian guys. We understand each other. There's no problem there. So we still even within Switzerland, we still have kind of the German and the Austrian community, which we also see in our fan base. So there are a lot of fans that we have from Germany, and I mean, in total numbers, the Germans are always going to be more than the Swiss. So we look at we're looking at, I don't know, 5 million 5,000 wish lists here, which are from Germany, and then it's I don't know, 900 from Switzerland. It's such a massive, much more, yeah, much bigger country that we always have to kind of look up and see where the whole market is.
What would you tell people who, like developers who are thinking about maybe starting a business in Switzerland, or maybe indie devs already who did start in Switzerland? And is there anything you want to tell them, like what they should do or should not?
I think what we should do is reach out to other indie devs, then kind of find like similar areas where we could help each other, where we could build a knowledge base. I mean, I've reached out um to Goran. They developed now I don't remember the game, something with far. I don't know whether it's called far. And I asked him some questions about publishers. So and he was really happy to help, even though he was on holiday. So as soon as he was back, he answered all my 5, 6, 7 questions that I had, all via LinkedIn and text. But yeah, so I think what I would tell other indie developers is to reach out and connect, and also then we can learn of each other, teach each other, and build a stronger network.
Yeah, sure. That's always the best way. Share experiences. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's no like, if I would tell you like, okay, in Switzerland, what you should do is get your game to a certain level, then go to Pro Helvetia, from Pro Helvetia get a publisher, from publisher get an, and then, I mean, that might be like, there might be like a general path that you can take, but that's like a very generic. So if I tell you reach out, then I can tell you exactly what you want or what you need for your game, or even I can connect you to we can see who to connect to pass on the expertise.
Can people or indie devs also text you via LinkedIn?
Sure.
Okay, cool, cool. So go to Lucas's page and maybe he can help you out.
I mean, easiest way to connect is hello@sycoforge.com. So that's via email.
Okay.
Then the whole team
Okay.
gets the email.
Perfect. So yeah, just to sum up, Return to Nangrim is on its way. Hopefully, we can see the game next year. How do you personally feel about development at the moment? Are you excited or are you worried? Or hopefully not. But how do you feel?
I think there's a lot of change going on, so I can't say there's not one single worry on my mind, but definitely I'm very excited to see how it progresses and how in what direction it progresses. And for me personally, I'm really looking forward to that transition of being a indie dev studio to being a indie dev studio with a publisher on board. So that's something which I'm really looking forward to, and an experience which will probably be very enriching.
Perfect. Well, I wish you all the best. I hope you'll find a publisher. And also, good luck for the game from the whole team of Open Indie. And thanks for being here, Lucas.
Thank you very much, Sarah.